So I work for ICANN. My role is with the Global Stakeholder Engagement Team, and I'm responsible for our work with civil society, which includes academia globally. I've also been an Internet Society member since June of 1992, which obviously you'll think someone must have had a kindergarten membership scheme at the time, because that has to be obvious. But that's not quite true. But that was in Kobe, and ICANN will be meeting in Kobe next March, so there's an opportunity to participate. I do want to say about Kathy's leadership of the Internet Society as a member. It's been exceptional. We've seen almost a shift to a sort of radical civil society drive to internet policy. It's been really very important. It's not quite radical, civil society. But you're taking on a leadership in internet governance that is extremely important. It allows other organizations like ICANN to get on with our mission while you're taking leadership in policy ideas and development. And we call ourselves the I-Stars. The star is internet, and then it's other organizations. So the star is really an asterisk. And it's the Internet Society, it's ICANN, it's the regional internet registries, and we work together. And ISOC's policy leadership is exceptional, so thank you very much. And I've been a member, I'm a very happy member for a long time. So I have a presentation here, which I think I have to click. So you've heard a lot about ICANN, and I'm trying to bring some threads together, and if I'm repeating myself, just fall asleep, and I'll probably notice it, and you can move on. So this is the first thing. If you want to just play around with your phone browser, in your phone or your laptop, try entering 210.160.35.8. I also have to say that this is not an ICANN authorized presentation. However, the point of entering that is you will see that it resolves to a URL. It resolves to a website in Japan, and it's somewhere that I used to associate with. And it shows what ICANN does, essentially. We're coordinating the addresses, names and addresses on the internet. And without this system, you wouldn't be able to access websites, you wouldn't be able to send email accurately. Every address, whether it's an IP address number or a domain name, has to be uniquely assigned. So ICANN's primary responsibility is developing policies that support the unique assignment of domain names, and through us, through coordination, mainly through the work of the regional internet registries, the assignment of IP addresses. So it makes the website work. I think, as Joran said this morning, I think I'm in the way. As Joran said this morning, he considers it to be sort of the user interface for the internet, and that's a fair description if you think of it in quite a simplistic way. So this is what we do in our mission. We coordinate the allocation and assignment of the root zone of the domain name system, which is a hierarchical lookup system for domain names. And you don't want me to try to explain that to you, but basically it's how the domain name system works and how your names resolve when you type in a browser, the address into a browser. We coordinate the development and implementation of policies concerning registration of generic top-level domain names. And a lot of the work, if you come to the ICANN meeting from tomorrow onwards, a lot of the work is policies like that. And it's not all technical at all. You'll see discussions about jurisdictional issues and what happens with ICANN as something that works across borders and globally. You'll see topics around how do we decide on whether there should be a second round of new top-level domain names. All kinds of different issues. Of course, the one that's going to be enormous is data protection and privacy with the some regulations that's coming in. We facilitate the coordination of the DNS root zone system, so that again is the hierarchical database of servers around the world that allow you to enter names into various forms. And we coordinate the allocation of protocols and autonomous system numbers, and we work with the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, and the regional internet registries. We also do some strange things through the PTI, what used to be called IANA, such as time zone data coordination. So when you look at your phone and your calendaring system, some of that comes from things that we coordinate. So there's a lot going on there. And these are some of our technical partners. So you'll see people like the American Registry for Internet Numbers, ARIN, which I think some of you probably know about, and there's the RIPE NCC, which is the equivalent version in the European region, and so on and so forth. APNIC is the equivalent. LACNIC is the equivalent in the Latin American and Caribbean region, World Wide Web Consortium, etc. And these are the technical partners we work with. And these are people who help the internet work, and we talk a lot about them with policy, Internet Society right in the middle, of course, WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization. And these are groups that we work with and coordinate with in terms of policy, one way or another, some more than others, but they're all important organizations that we work with in our policy development. This is how we see the ecosystem of ICANN at the moment. This is the structure that you come and see next week up at the convention center. Top of it is the community, global multi-stakeholder community of volunteers. Policy happens bottom up, but they should be at the top of the tree here, if we didn't have this representation. We also have board of directors. They're representatives from the community. All of them come in some form or other through community developed processes. If you want to be on the board of directors, we have a nominating committee ongoing at the moment, which is seeking applications for people who want to join the ICANN board. It's quite tough. It's a big organization. You need some good skills. And there are other opportunities as well. If you're interested, have a look in your search engine of choice for ICANN and nominating committee, and you will find opportunities there. And then, of course, there's so what the board of directors do is they take the policy that comes from the community development processes, and they will think about implementation. They check that policy processes have happened correctly, and then they're matching with implementation and strategy and budgets and so on and so forth. And the implementation should be for the ICANN org, and ICANN org usually refers to staff, people like me. Some people are supporting policy development. I do outreach and engagement and talk to a lot of civil society organizations around the world, try and encourage them to join. But also we have a mission to try and inform people about what ICANN does and our role in the internet and in global commerce, I suppose, and many things like that. So this is how we see the ICANN ecosystem. And then around the community, we have different interest groups. We have internet users, internet end users, and I'm sure Olivier has spoken a lot about the at-large. Glenn is also extremely involved, Eduardo and others. And this is how we represent the global interests of internet users. Academia, governments, of course, are extremely important. Business groups, Marilyn has been leading the business engagement in ICANN for a long time, or sorry, business participation in ICANN for a long time. Civil society and technical experts. So this is the basic sort of ethos of how it all works. What is the multi-stakeholder community? Well, it's volunteer. It's open group of global stakeholders. We try to be inclusive, we want to be open, and the process through bottom-up processes that the community decides and the community initiates. The job is to give advice, develop and make policy recommendations. They also review processes. There are some quite strong powers within the community to keep ICANN accountable, to ensure that we're transparent and various other things. By ICANN in that sense, I mean a lot of the staff and board decisions. And we work toward this common mission of secure and stable global internet. We have different structures that do this. On the one hand, there's the policy-making side, and we have 3 supporting organizations that work on this. The one that you'll see most actively participating next week up at the Convention Center works on generic top-level domain name policies. There's also a group that works on Internet Protocol address policies. They coordinate at the global level. They come together at ICANN to coordinate their regional work at the global level. And then some of the country code top-level domain name operators come together and work together in a supporting organization. Country code policy tends to be sovereign. We don't try, as ICANN, to tell .pr what their policies should be. That's something that you, from Puerto Rico, should be deciding for yourselves. There are also advisory groups that are involved in the policy development processes, but their job mainly is to advise on how those policies will and should be implemented and how they affect their particular groups. So what we see in the supporting organizations is one called the Address Supporting Organization, and they take a look at Internet Protocol Address Policy. As I mentioned, this is generally developed at the regional level. They come together in ICANN to coordinate, when necessary, global policies. The CCNSO, Country Code Name Supporting Organization, looks at those policies for country codes like .pr or .uk for the United Kingdom, .mx for Mexico, and it's country code managers, and they, again, when necessary, they need to look at something that needs coordination at the global level, then they will do so through an ICANN process. A recent example of that would have been policies for internationalized domain names, which need global coordination as opposed to national sovereign type development. And then, as I mentioned, a lot of the working groups you'll see next week, the generic name supporting organization. This group is complicated, and this is where the hard policy lifting is done at ICANN. They're divided into two houses, one for the contracted parties. Contracted parties are the registries. Kathy mentioned .org. Well, they're run by, that's a registry. They run the registry system for the top level domain names, the GTLD, sorry, only in this case, and also the registrars, the people you go to get your service from a domain name, when you want to register a domain name. And those are the contracted parties because they have contracts with ICANN to operate, and they acknowledge ICANN policies, as Rodrigo mentioned earlier. And then we have the non-contracted parties house, which is all the user-oriented groups. So there's representatives of business, of internet ISPs, internet service providers and connectivity providers, intellectual property interests, non-commercial users. I think you probably all met Joan Kerr around. She is the chair of something called the Not-for-Profit Operational Concerns Constituency, and that is another not-for-profit oriented group. They come together and they initiate and they develop policy on issues at ICANN. The advisory committees, the one mentioned at the top is the at-large advisory committee, and this is the top level structure for the at-large members, which are the internet users from around the world. Is ISOC PR ALS, so the local structure for that is called an at-large structure. As Eduardo has just mentioned, yes, .PR is an ALS. There are over 220 of those from over 100 different countries, and those are organizations that are basically member-based, member-oriented, and they bring the interests of internet users from around the world into ICANN policy and how ICANN policy affects individual internet users. The Governmental Advisory Committee is extremely important. They represent the internet, the world's governments. I think there are about 170 members at the moment, so 170 government members at the moment. And they have an important role in providing advice on public policy concerns as ICANN policy affects them. And then two technically oriented committees, the Root Server Advisory Committee and the Security and Stability Advisory Committee. And they're advising on their respective sort of technical remits. So, that's the sort of basic structure. You'll see a lot of working groups going on next week that are discussing issues that these different groups work on. If you're technically oriented, you may be able to see some of their work, and if you're interested in the GNSO work, you will be able to see the policy development going on there. Siranush, I think yesterday mentioned the fellowship program, and this is important, this is how you can get involved. So I'll just recap. I'm sorry, I haven't seen her slides. So perhaps I'm duplicating, but this is important because this is about you and hopefully you coming back into ICANN. So the fellowship program is about building global capacity, supporting policy development. Eventually we hope that you would get involved in the policy processes, and it's an application that takes place online for the three meetings that take place each year. The Next Gen program is for people who are in further education. They should be from the region where the meeting is taking place. As Puerto Rico is in North America, then students who are in education in what we've defined as the North American region can participate and are eligible for the Next Gen program. And then there's just newcomer sessions designed for anybody who's not part of those two formal programs, and they have sessions that are designed for them to help them get involved. So if you're coming up to the convention center on Sunday, I think it is, there's a whole range of different topics introducing you to what ICANN does. The fellowship and how funding works. So for each meeting, we approximately at the moment support 60 people to come. It's a global fund. It does particularly look to supporting people from developing economies, but you are eligible if you're not from a developing economy, your basic fees of attending the meeting are covered: travel and accommodation and a basic stipend. Similar for Next Gen, except you're between the ages. It's a smaller program, up to 30 people. As I mentioned, it's for people within who are in further education between, I think it's 18 and 30. And again, you have your costs of attending the meeting covered. Newcomers, there's no funding offered, but ICANN meetings are open to anyone to participate. You just need to register, and there's no fee to go to the meeting. There's no registration fee. And sometimes we provide coffee. And there are programs designed for you there. This is the schedule of application dates and deadlines for these meetings. So, of course, we've missed the one for Puerto Rico because it's starting, and the next meeting in Panama, that's just closed. But the annual general meeting in Barcelona in October, you can see that the application round will begin quite soon on 20th of March. And then the meeting in Kobe in March of 19